It says live on YouTube.
I think we might be getting ready to go live.
Well, it says live on the YouTube.
Live on YouTube. All right, I'm gonna start recording on this computer. Great, we got that set up. As soon as it says done, redirected to YouTube, that's what's doing right now, and we're gonna get ready to go live.
And it says watch live now I got the notification.
Fantastic.
Like she fan.
All right.
Oh, it's live on YouTube.
Great.
Oh.
All right, so we are here today. Happy to have everyone here with us today. I'm going to change my name over to Randall Simmons so I don't confuse anybody or confuse myself, I guess.
Your name's not a Denton Productions?
Not a Denton Productions, sadly.
I've been tricked. Oh my God.
Bamboozled. Wait.
Oh, duped.
All right, so hi everyone. Thanks for coming back to R&J's Roundtable with myself, Randall Simmons, co-head of Outreach with Affinity Productions, to my absolute favorite person ever, besides all my other favorite people, J. Andrew Spees, the other co-head of Outreach for Affinity Productions.
That's what they told me.
We have one of my new favorite people, Jala Bennett here. And Jala is a graduate of the Coastal Carolina University Department of Theater's BA program with a minors in Women's and Gender Studies and Africa Diaspora Studies. She is a director, a writer, a dramaturg, a filmmaker, and a theater of the oppressed practitioner. She is dedicated to uplifting the voices of marginalized folk through art and activism. Jala, we are ecstatic to have you with us today.
I'm glad to be here too. Hi, you guys.
Hi.
Well, so I think we can go ahead and get right into it. Jala, we want to start off the conversation with just hearing what you've done in film. From the beginning. Small stuff, big stuff, things that excite you. What have you done in your film experience / career so far?
Good child. Okay. Well, I guess we can start from the beginning. I actually fell into filmmaking on accident. When I was still interested in acting, which I'm not anymore. We were in a acting for the screen class, and I did a monologue for my favorite movie, Eve's Bayou.
Love Eve's Bayou.
You got taste. I love it. So in doing that, I realized that though I enjoyed the acting process, being behind the camera was so much more satisfying for me. And during that, a club was created from my class, and it was called Studio 54. And we were, you see it. And we were basically put in a position to make short films. My mentor at the time, Michael DiGiorgio, shouts out to him, love him so much. He created this club for us to learn how the filmmaking process, both on screen and behind the camera. So I was originally just there to script support because I was a writer. I was still a writer, but they had run out of directors for some of the short films in this series we had called Class of Us that he had written. And I was like, you know what? I'll try it. And I quite literally fell in love with it. So the first thing I ever shot was called Flavor of the Week. It was a 10-minute short written by Michael, and we filmed it both on campus and in the coffee shop across the street from our school. And it was one of the best experiences I've ever had.
I have to say, I've watched that. It's fantastic. Love it. Recommend. It's on YouTube, so go watch it. Please do.
Look me up, Jala Bennett. Excuse me, I have a little cough. Okay, so after that, I ended up doing a couple other shorts for the school, Walk of Shame, Can I Take Your Picture? I helped on other people's works. There were a couple films that were done that I can't recall the names because I was doing things back to back as well as directing for the stage. At school, she was a busy girl in college. But after that, to my senior year, I was completing my minor, and for my capstone, I chose to do the African American image in film. So from there, I was able to do some research on the film noir genre. So I got the opportunity to write, like go through the whole production process of filmmaking and do like a mid-feature film called Affinity, which is a neo-noir. And I chose neo-noir because I was really interested in seeing the gray area for Black characters on screen. Because so often, because of the racism that pervades US history and US film history, Black characters are often like very one-sided. Either they're like extremely good and perfect and are going to help you along your way, or they're like the villain. So I wanted to like dig into what it meant for them to have these moral gray areas. And I think that's what I did with Affinity. I'm very proud of that film. I don't know what else to say about it, to be honest.
Again, I watched that too. It's fantastic. Again, I recommend to anyone who watches this, please go watch Affinity. I dream about the opening shot, it's beautiful. It's like we see the main character in front of this it's like there's like a pool, but you're like underneath the pool, and it's the people kicking off the walls. Oh, it's so pretty. It's just so, oh wow, I love
And
it.
it was a happy accident too, because in the original script, we were in that pool area, but there were swimming lessons going on, and they hadn't told us. So she, like the head of the pool area, she was like, "I'm so sorry," and she took us to the boiler room. And in the boiler room, there's this like you sit and watch them swim. Like as the coaches go there to like watch their like technique, and it was the most beautiful thing. And it added to the color scheme and the color theory we had going on already in the film. Everything.
Love a happy accident. I feel like they happen a lot more in film than in theater, for sure.
Because you can start over in film, girl. Like that's probably one of like my favorite things. You have the opportunity to go back and do it again and do it better and do it different. There's so many options, especially I think about when I cast my actors. I talk about the lead in Affinity. His name is Ashton. He actually, I enjoy working with him because he is so willing to listen and like take the note and like run with it. So they're like if I go on my hard drive, there are like 12 takes of one scene where he does it different every single time. And I had so much space to edit and choose what really was happening in the story, like well past what I wrote and what I imagined.
That's awesome. So as a director, in what ways do you just love to play in the medium of film? Like what's your favorite thing? Are you about the shot? Are you about what's happening with the actor? Are you about the dynamics of the things happening in space? What's your bread and butter?
That in the You'll hear me say this a lot, especially if you're in the office with me. It's complicated. So I am a very visual thinker, so what I see is what I'd like try to recreate on the screen. I think that shows very well in Affinity. For example, the light and the color gave Affinity a lot of what it meant for it to be a neo-noir and it to be a film full of Black characters. Majority of the actors in my movie were African American. So not only is it the visual aspect of creating the scene and the background moments and these small details. I'm a very detail oriented person. Finding those details and being able to sprinkle them in does something to me. There's a scene in Affinity I'm very fond of in the coffee shop where I shot Flavor of the Week because I'm consistent if anything. Where my character, I was like a very small character in the script, is out of focus and walks behind the shot as the main character is talking about what happened to me. And little things like that I really appreciate, and having like little almost Easter eggs. Like you think in the like terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, how there's Easter eggs for other comic books in their movies. I love being able to like drop something in there that if you're like watching, I guess actively, whatever, you find things that you wouldn't have found in like just a simple casual watch.
Yeah. So when you were doing Affinity, I'm interested in knowing what was because it was like I said, it was great. I love the end product. But as I was watching it, we were having conversations as we were watching it, but it seemed like there were a lot of things that were probably very difficult for you to do or pull off or stuff. And like as like a student filmmaker, student filmmakers to student filmmakers, I'm interested in knowing like throughout that process, what do you think like your biggest challenge was that you had to overcome, while you were filming Affinity?
The biggest challenge? Okay, so that's a hard question for me because with Affinity, I was not the end all be all, but I took on most of I had a lot of hats on doing Affinity. I wrote it, I edited, I didn't shoot, but I was right behind my DP staring at the camera. I directed, I did the costume design, I did the color, like the color scheme. I did a lot of that was me, and like location scouting, all of that was me with like some of course I did get help when I could, but we're all in school, so it was very difficult to time manage
Mm-hmm.
while also assistant directing a show for the theater that I was getting a degree with. So it was a difficult thing, but it was also that was my first major like film production. So it was also learning exactly what my directing style was, because in directing classes you're told you have to be aggressive, you have to be firm, you have to be stern. There's no jokes, you can't play with these people, and I don't believe that. I do not believe that at all. I think I'm a very soft and generous person when it comes to my work. It's not mine, it's ours. I can't direct a film with no actors, with no crew, with no those people are integral to the process. So I found myself a lot of the time having to figure out what is the space between that stern, like not authoritarian, but like commanding presence, but also still being at the base of myself. That was definitely a challenge that I worked through as I did it, and I think it worked out in my favor, but who's to say?
That's amazing. I think oftentimes as student filmmakers, we are like doing 1,000 jobs and we don't even realize that our position or the thing we call ourselves has like one strict task. But when you're a student filmmaker, you have to do everything because it's like you're trying to teach yourself how to be effective and also working with other folks who will be taking on those tasks.
I still
Um,
have nightmares about libations. Like the remembering like, oh, how we're having like in this whole house, we're having this scene going on, and then in this other house, we're trying to get all these like 30 extras into costumes so we can do this follow shot. Oh my gosh, it was a mess.
It was crazy. It's a crazy fun time. But Jayla, do you feel like there's like a control freak moment for you? Are you one of those people who are like, I do my job and that's it? Or are you one of those people who's like, I gotta know what everybody's doing. I gotta have irons and fires.
I think it's important to know. Well, one, I think before all of that, to be confident in the people that you're hiring, you have to be confident in the work that they're doing and that they're doing it to their best ability. And I think honestly, in my opinion, that's like 90% of directing. If you know the people you've hired and you've put into position to support you, they should be better than you. First of all, I think they should be better than you. They should be leaps and bounds better than you when it comes to the work, because you, of course, you have your vision and you have your work and you have your skill set, but you have to go past that to make the work you want to make. And I think that knowing that is the first step. Outside of that, I like to be updated, but I'm not going to be like, are you doing what you're supposed to do? Be, I'm not going to be up under your skin. We have our space. I trust you to do your work. If you're not doing your work, I'm like, hey, what's up? Is something wrong? Is there a problem? So I'd like to be, I think I'm a decent problem solver. So I like to know if there is an issue, I can help you so we can move forward in the way we're supposed to move. But I don't think, excuse me, I don't think that looming over someone is going to make their work better.
Mm-hmm.
You being this aggressive force over someone is not going to make them do their work to the best of their ability. Because I know for myself, I'm an extremely anxious person.
Mm.
So to the idea of someone standing over me while I do my work would make me mad. It would stress me out. I don't want to cause that same kind of inner turmoil for someone else. So I think I'm not hands off, but I don't have you in a chokehold. I don't think that's useful.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's the mark of a good director too. A director who doesn't feel the need to like hold on to something, who can, not only delegate is important, but to to have the faith in the people who you, like you said, 90% of it is who you pick and who you cast, who you hire, who you have like supporting and uplifting what you're trying to do. And yeah, I think that just, you know, displays your prowess as a director, in my opinion. Um, I'm interested in knowing, we you said in your bio that we said that you also do a lot of theater of the oppressed, um, and I think that's a fantastic thing that I want to talk a little bit more about because I'm still learning about exactly what that is, because it's still a fairly new concept for me, and so before we get into that conversation, if you could, for the people watching and for Jordan and I also, could you kind of give us what your like definition of theater of the oppressed is?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So I love talking about this. This is like my home. Theater of Press is like where I find myself the most deeply rooted. In the words of my mentor, my actual mentor, Amanda Master Paul, light of my life. Theater of the Oppressed is a rehearsal for the revolution. So what it does is you're using theater games, image theater, forum theater, you're using going out into the streets or going into workshops, going into classrooms and using games to show exactly how society works, because like game, society has rules that you have to follow, and if you choose not to follow them, what are the consequences? So seeing what those consequences are in a safe environment such as a game is a way I'm so sorry, is a way to oh, I'm getting excited, so I'm like talking faster. I um it's a way to really analyze the inner workings of how our society works in reference to the rest of the world. Because like Augusto Boal was the creator of Theater of the Oppressed. He created during the like 60s or 70s during the Brazilian like revolution. And it was a way to like not only fight against a system that was like quite literally oppressing them, but also understand in better terms what was happening and why it was happening. And I think it really like gives you a view on how to really see privilege and oppression in a non that in a way that's not black and white, but is truly in the gray area, because everyone comes with their own set of privileges and oppressions. So they're not mutually exclusive, of course. So it's learning how those things fit together and why and what they do to you, because we all have these intersecting identities that oh these intersecting identities that create us, and we have to understand how we fit into the rest of the world. So
That's amazing. I mean, I think oftentimes some of the structures we built even in theater sometimes feel very linear, like you're either on this side of it or you're on that side of it, and if you aren't on one side or the other, then you really don't understand the functions of things. And in what ways, like, is this work, you clearly enjoy it, but in what ways do you bring that, how does one invest in this work? How does one get into theater of the oppressed?
well, the way I oh my goodness, the way I got into it was an applied theater course at Coastal by Amanda Masterpaul. And Amanda actually, I will talk, I think so highly of her. Amanda worked directly with Augusto Boal before he passed away. So she worked with him for years. So she had this like innate sense of understanding in this work, and she gave that to me. And I think the way I rooted myself in it was not only were we doing what we did specifically was at Coastal, there's this thing called Haven Live, and that happens at the beginning of the year. It's a interactive show about sexual assault on
Mm.
on college campuses. So you use forum theater, you present this scenario, and with that scenario, you talk to the audience and explain like what are these, like, for example, we use forum theater specifically with this, so it was finding possible outcomes and solutions to these problems. And you have the ability to find these magical solutions that don't work, because in society those are impossible truths, whereas you have to get to the, and once you go through all these possible situations, you find the root cause of these issues, which is us going into like sexism, racism, homophobia, xenophobia, like digging into what makes us tick, basically. And that's what really interested me, because like, of course I'm a theater major, and that's like the interest in the human condition, but also art. I also have those two minors that were so well spoken by Randall. So I'm very interested in what makes us work in a larger context, and that's what really hooked me in. On top of me being a teacher by nature, being an educator, that's something that I'm very fond of.
Mm-hmm. So how do you think that being so interested in theater of the oppressed and like those systems and ideals and values have kind of worked their way into not only like your theatrical, lifestyle and career, but your film career as well? Like, do you find those worlds ever crossing over?
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely. I didn't mean to cut you off, but absolutely, 100%. Um, Even with the work I do with my actors, a lot of the times before I even begin a process, we're doing those games. We're discussing if there are power imbalances or societal factors that factor into characters. We're discussing that and using it in how we do our work. For example, my best friend and I, we directed In the Blood by Susan Lorraine Parks, which is one of my favorite plays. And in the first week of rehearsals, we did a read through, but we also were there's a game in TO called Columbian Hypnosis, and it's about power structures. And you have one person who has their hand up, and the other person has to keep their nose in line with the middle of that person's hand, so this person can move however they want to. And it's deciding how much power are you willing to exert over another person. And in terms of In the Blood, that show was all about power and how power was used against Hester, who's the main character. So I, for like, in general, I think it's very important to use those things to understand what's truly happening in the work. And when it comes to film, I think I write most of the things I direct, because I'm a writer. I don't know, it's what I do. I I find myself thinking about what these characters, these my babies, what they're doing, why they're doing it, what's the causation behind those things. So even characters I don't like, and I think that's something that TO definitely taught me. I found myself when I first began TO, I was lucky enough to be able to go to the Pedagogy and Theater of the Oppressed conference 2 years in a row. So I was able to do workshops with these industry professionals and learn and meet Julian Boal, who's the son of Augusto, and like learning like the the base material of what TO is. And I found myself when I was there, um, being frustrated with like having one of the important things is like coming from a place of understanding, is like learning how to understand someone who hates me, which is something I still grapple with to this day. Learning how to understand and communicate with someone who hates me, and like my identities, whether that be me being queer, me being black, me being feminine, whatever those identities are, having to learn how to understand those people in a way that isn't negative, and is the realization that, and I'm getting off topic, but like whatever, it's the realization that we all come from a separate background. My background is not the same as your background. Even if we share identities or common ground in communities, we do not come from the same backgrounds. We have different places of understanding that we have to start from. And you can't call someone dumb because they don't know, because they never learned it. And I think that's something that TO really instilled in me, and makes me a better artist, because even with shows I don't like or characters I don't like, I'm able to find my understanding and my peace with them. So
Mhm. That's something. Finding peace with characters is like, that's the job, right? Like, especially from, I say I'm an actor first. Um, Finding peace with a character is like sometimes the most difficult thing. You're like, gosh, why would a person ever? And you have to like start to take it apart and be like, okay, this human is this way because of these events, and that is why they function this way. Um, and like, so like that's like where process begins for me. So I'm really curious as to where process begins for you, because you've talked about games and you've talked about being a writer and writing and directing and that kind of collaboration. So I'm going to choose one as a director, and then I have to choose a medium in film. Where does process begin for you? Like, is it the first read? Is it the concept? Like, where does it begin for you?
As far as like full process, like
Yeah,
from paper
start to finish.
to screen. Okay. For me, it's definitely like, and it's, this is gonna sound corny, but I don't care. It's the idea. It's like that seed that's planted, and like so often as a creator, we don't get to see the fruition of what we plant. So it's that seed, knowing that I can do something with this story and how it affects the rest of the world. Like for example, I'm in the middle of writing my first feature right now. Um, and a lot of my work, and I realized this well after the fact because my friend like clocked me for it. A lot of my work is based in family dynamic and generational trauma and how that affects what we do and how we move through the world. And with this one, with this script I'm working on, I won't like talk about it because then um with this script, I was under the impression that one thing was happening with this character. Her name is Risa. I was um under the impression that one thing was like the penultimate for like everything that made her and why she was the way she was. But in fact, after talking with other people and understanding not only the context of the story, but of how I fit into the story, because I really think as writers, we're in every story we tell.
Mm.
I think we're in every story we tell, whether we know it or not. And I didn't know it with this story until my friend was like, "You know, this is about you, right?" And
Woo!
those are kind of friends you want, the ones that will clock you in a way that you're just like, "Ooh." Those
Randall. Randall will clock. He will clock
he
you.
will. I only just met Randall a few weeks ago, but Randall was like, "Okay, let's get to it. If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it."
Give me more. Give me more. Give me more. Give me more.
He
Give me
said,
more.
"Don't be shy, add some more." But realizing what the base is for something and like the seed and what can come out of it is where I start. And then once I get there, I'm such an in my head person. It's the visuals, the concepts, the what it looks like. What does it look like? And what it looks like is what it feels like for me. Because what I see is what it is. Like what I see is like it becomes what I am. I think about the time I spent in Europe. I studied physical theater at the Accademia dell'Arte in Arezzo, and the last project I did there, I was the only femme Black woman in the theater aspect of it. So I felt this extreme isolation while I was there, and I created like a little short film about it called "I Don't Feel Like Myself," and it was it was odd. It's on YouTube if you care to look at it, whatever. Um, and it was quite literally a visual representation of what I was feeling inside. And I think that that's where a lot of my work grounds itself in what does it feel like and what does that feeling look like. I think that's how a lot of my work finds itself, which is why I when I look back, there's so many neon colors in the work that I do. There are lots of it's over the top. I'm a very emotional person, and I see that the emotion that I feel comes out in the work that I do, whether it's directly about me or not. But that was like off topic of the question, but I'm done.
No, you answered it. You answered it. It starts with that seed, that initial when you plant it, and it starts to grow. That's the tea. That's the tea right there.
You hit a little bit on a question. I'm kind of mad about it, but you hit a little bit on a question that I wanted to ask, and I guess it's my problem for not telling you what I want to ask beforehand. You talked about your neon in Affinity, which is something that I was probably one of my favorite parts of the film. Was this like neon stylization? There's one scene where like literally it's just the only light is neon. And like they're in, is that the restaurant scene? They're in the restaurant.
It's the Johnny Rocket scene. Yeah. Oh, what is the question? I'm sorry.
My question is, in regards to that, whether it be theater or film, when you approach something as a director, is there a design element or something that you kind of find yourself returning to or focusing in, more so than others, or leaning into more heavier than others, if that makes sense?
It does make sense. I'm about to die. My asthma is a mess. I think what I always return back to is, I think emotion and color is what really like drives my work. I never talk about my work. This is so odd. I never like speak about my work in this sense. I just do it and it kind of just happens how it happens. So thank y'all for this. This is a very interesting and like eye-opening thing for me. But I think what I always come back Lord have mercy. What I always come back to is what, like I said before, what does the what does that feeling look like? And with Affinity, a lot of that movie was green and red. A lot of the movie was green and red because it was like not only this, like it was the blood, it was the trauma, it was the lust between those two characters who were coming together. It was like this fire and this water. And I'm telling on myself right now, but like a lot of the work that I write always comes back to water imagery. Water imagery is very important. That's probably the answer to the question. Water imagery is very important to me. I think about in Affinity, water was absolution, water was rebirth. Because for the antagonist character, I'm not gonna spoil it, she found absolution in water in whatever way she found it. And what that did to the rest of it informed the rest of the characters and the rest of the world, the way the world worked. And I think about even anything I've written before, water is somehow involved. I find, I don't know, I'm a water science, so maybe that's what it is. But water cleanses, water absolves, water removes. Like I'm also a decently religious person. Water is the blood. Like it, I don't know, water and blood seem to always be the themes I come back to in my work, especially considering a lot of my work revolves around family and family dynamics, because those things are generational to me. Of course, blood by proxy is generational because it's the binding force. But water, I don't know where I read this, but water, the same water you're drinking now is the water someone drank 100 years before you. It all comes back. It's cyclical. So I find myself, you know what? I'm not doing this. He said, actor first, sweetie. He said, director who? We're acting here. Thank you. But I always find myself coming back to that because it's like, and I thought it was a crutch for a long time, but I realized it's like the basis of how I view myself in my work. I think that's something I always come back to, like the water, the blood, and like visually color. I just think there's something so important and beautiful about like seeing, like truly seeing. Like I think it's like on top of anything else, it's a privilege to be able to see in general. And like as an artist, that's like the basis of all that I do, looking and understanding and using that to understand. So I want to use it to the best of its ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the concept of seeing and being seen, we as artists have to. My spirit, it leapt when you pointed. I felt it. But
my shoe.
what we do to make the marginalized feel less marginalized, or the those who feel like the strongholds in their family be seen as what it means to be that, or how we function in our friend groups, to be seen on film is such a powerful statement. And when we really start to get to the brass tacks of how we do that, I don't think it's always overt. I think most of the time it's very subversive, and all of a sudden you've come up with this thing that is like, oh, that's me. And now people get to see me, or they get to see this person I've existed with for so long as this natural being. And I always say people being people is what I love to see on film. And not in a boring way, because I feel like sometimes people make people being people a boring thing. But like, I'm damn crazy. If I saw myself on film, I'd be scared. Okay, but like, I think that's so fundamental to the work we do. I just wanted to put that in the airspace, that I feel like that's the job. That's the job.
It's quite literally the work. I mean, every professor I've ever had in theater says it's about the human condition, and I think that especially in the theater, we've missed out on a massive part of the population. There's not just one human condition, there are human conditions. So so it's seeing, like, I think about this with a heavy heart. I think about Chadwick Boseman. I am a dork. I'm a big old nerd. I have a huge collection of comic books back at home, and Chadwick Boseman was the first, like, of course there's Blade and there's Storm and whatever, like, yeah, but Chadwick Boseman was the person who I was like, I see myself on screen. I see the world I want to be in on screen. The Afrofuturism concept of Black Panther, oh my God. Like, when you see yourself on screen, it's a visceral, like, for me, it's a very visceral and like physical like reaction you get out of like knowing that you are heard. I even think about Gabrielle Sibde. I'm a plus sized woman. I'm a plus size femme. And very rarely do you see Black femmes, plus size Black femmes on screen, and they're not the butt of a joke. I'm funny, but I'm not the butt of a joke. So it's seeing yourself the way you know you are, the way you know you are, the way you know your family is. I think about, I love film, y'all. Like, I watch way too many movies. I talk about them all day. I think about Moonlight. I think about what Moonlight did to me, what Moonlight did to my friends, what seeing fully developed Black queer, I can't speak English because I'm having emotions. Fully developed queer Black characters on screen brought something out of me I didn't know was there. And that's part of the reason why I want to make film. I know what my story is. I know exactly what well, not exactly. She's growing, she's learning, she's evolving. But I know what the base of my story is. I know who I am. I'm very aware, and I'm like, it's been a journey, of course, not a trip. And I'm aware of that, and I think it's so extremely important to see yourself on screen, to know that you exist past what's right in front of you, what's past the mirror. I think that's so important. Like, I don't know.
Y'all know I cry.
I'm a Pisces. If you start crying, I'm gonna start crying. Do not do that.
We're not gonna be crying on here. We don't want that to happen. Okay.
Don't do that, honey.
Ooh. So I have to ask. What was the first moment you felt you were seen in film? Like, what was that moment for you?
You got me pondering things now, honey. I mean, I think it would. This is gonna sound. I don't care how it sounds. I mean, like, everyone will say it, but like, Black Panther was extremely important to me. Like, Black Panther was very important to me. I also think about I watch a lot of movies with my grandmother and my mom. I think about The Color Purple. I think about Eve's Bayou. I think about Do the Right Thing. I think about School Days. I think about Blind Spotting. I think about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man, okay, this is like comic book theory real quick, but it's important. Spider-Man, Peter Parker's Spider-Man is like the most identifiable Marvel character, first of all. And a lot of, in like my research, because I do a lot of research, I get on rabbit holes. A lot of Black identifying people identify with Spider-Man. And then in 2012, those comic books, Miles' comic books came out, and I was reading them. And then seeing Miles on screen did something to me, like tore me apart. Was in this, and you can ask Randall in the like, because we watched it on Sunday again. I was in the like originally in the theater just sobbing. I was there by myself without friends. There's a bunch of little kids around me. I'm just crying, and they're like, "What's wrong with her?" But that movie felt so at home for me. It's like when something feels like home to me is when it like really settles in for me. So I don't know if I answered your question, but like
No, those those moments, I think, you know, especially as Black artists, it's always nuggets. You're always taking these nuggets. You're like, ooh, because Blackness doesn't exist in a monolith. So everything we see has a piece of us in it. I remember, I think I said this before, I watched School Days way too early in life, like way too early in life. But Good and Bad Hair was I just knew it was like that. That it was theater, it was film, it was all the things compiled. It was like a little box for me.
but that's
And
Spike Lee. Like that's
it,
also just Spike Lee. That man loves MGM musicals. Like I
it
think
is,
about
yes.
what's the movie? What's the movie? She's Gotta Have It. That whole scene that's suddenly in color and they're dancing across the stage. She's like in this yellow dress. That's the theater. And he found that for himself and put it into his movie. And I think that's so good. And it's so like validating. Like that's the thing, it's validating. It's validation. And I think that's what film and theater does when you never see yourself and you see someone show you, when someone shows you who you are and you didn't ask them for it.
That's something that,
Hmm.
go ahead, if you have more.
No, go ahead.
Like, you know, this concept of seeing yourself in an art form where you don't really like get to very often. You know, we're edging the end of our time, and you know, something that I'm really interested in hearing from you in particular is, as you're kind of coming into this world of becoming an artist and growing into something, growing into a professional and growing into a working artist, you know, even here at like Florida Studio Theater, with, you know, starting to meld yourself into the professional artist that you're going to become, what is like, if you could see yourself, you know, 30 years from now, and you know, either you directed something big, you're acting something big, you wrote like a feature film that's like being world premiered, like if you could instill a thought or a feeling into a child then, in the same kind of way that you are getting these feelings instilled by you by seeing these, you know, BIPOC artists on screen, what would you want that to be? Like what do you want that feeling or that thought to, you know what I mean?
Yes. And why'd you ask me that hard behind question? Because that's so many things. That's so many things. Because I'm an educator above all else. I think I've always found myself wanting to teach, wanting to heal. And I think that's what teachers do, they heal. I want, what do I want? Got me being philosophical and esoteric on this live. Um, I know for me, I felt like, and as someone who struggles with their mental health and with like their self-image and how they view themselves in the world. Like you say my Instagram, my aesthetic is a part of my identity. It bleeds into who I am. Those things all bleed together. But as someone who struggled with all those things for so long and still struggles, I'm not gonna act like I'm like crystal clear. Knowing that you don't have to be anything anyone says you are. Like, you don't have to, like, I know for me, like, doing theater, I was the black sheep of my family for a long time till they realized I was good at what I did. But we're not gonna get into that. Child. But knowing that what they expect you to be isn't what you have to be. And I think about, it's the quote from somebody. I read too much stuff. I can't remember who says what, but you can't be what you can't see. And I think being able to imagine and put that in front of you is so important. And like, and I'm so optimistic about it because I'm gonna keep quoting people because that's just, she reads. I think about James Baldwin, my art dad, my art father. I can't be pessimistic because being pessimistic about where we are right now makes life an educational matter. It makes it's not, you have to be positive about what's going on because you have to have hope. And I think that that's what I want to be able to say with the work I do, that what you are, just being is enough. Because I'm going to get into like the activism is going to jump out. I think about how when someone Black passes away from police brutality or from gun violence, they say, oh, they could have been a doctor, a lawyer, they could have cured cancer, they could have did this. And I'm just very over speaking of these people in future tense as if they weren't someone before they died. You are someone from the moment you step onto this earth. And I think that's so important. No one is born ahead of their time. No one is like a mythical creature. We're all like, what you are right now is vastly important to where we are. Y'all gonna have me feel like y'all gonna have me talking. I know y'all have to end. I just think that's so important, and that you have to know. You just have to know those things, and I think that's what I want to say with my work. That just you as you are, and I hope that's what people see when they see my work, is enough. So
beautiful. That's plain and simple. That's beautiful.
That's it. That's it.
The snaps. Well, thank you, Jala. This has been a fantastic conversation. You know, as great as I knew it was going to be when Jordan asked me to ask you to join us today. And so thank you a lot for being here and, you know, for just willing to talk and to, you know, delve into these things, you know. Thank you.
I mean, thank you for having me. I've never been interviewed for the work I do. So this was like,
well, this is the beginning of many, I assure you.
Please don't. I got a big head already. Do not.
We had her on Facebook Live. Oh, sorry, YouTube Live. When? So we'll remember. Well, we've got plenty of things. You know, before we end, as always, we have to update where we are in Adeniton. You know, we've got plenty of things coming up.
We're greenlit.
We are greenlit for Mothman. Woo! As of right now, we have raised $11,125. And our original goal was only $10,500. So for those of you watching today, we have decided to, we have 2 days and 16 hours left from this moment. And we have decided to extend our goal up to $15,000 with the hope of, you know, garnering a lot more money for things like PPE, for paying our cast and our crew, for locations, pretty much for everything. You know, the more money we have, the better. And we need it, please, please, please. If you know any rich people, send them our way because we love rich people. We also like anyone with any kind of money. You know, $1, as we've been saying the whole time, $1, get your credit. Get a credit in the film. You see your name at the end of it, while you're waiting for the after credit scene that may or may not be there, you can see your name scroll by and say, "Oh, look, there's me." Yeah. But yes, so we are very happy to have reached that goal. And I think we said last week, but I'll say it again just to be clear that R&J's Roundtable is going to be happening every Tuesday, 6:30 now, or around 6:30. We have a lot of really exciting people coming up, and really a lot of plans for the future and how we want to present to you guys, and the things we want to show. So we're very excited and very happy about that. Jordan, do you have anything you want to say?
Follow us on Seed and Spark. That is just as good as money at this point. Follow us. It takes maybe 5 minutes. And we put everything on our Facebook. Follow us on Seed and Spark. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on here on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. All the things, folks. All the things.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you who don't know, we also do have a mailing list that goes out every Friday with updates about, right now it's been a lot of about Mothman, but we also do have projects that, are a little more hush-hush, that things are happening behind the scenes. And so we're very excited to get a little bit more information about that as, time moves on. But we're at Edenton, we're always working on a lot of fun stuff to give you guys and make sure we keep you interested. We also, interesting before I forget, our short film Brina on YouTube recently passed the 1,000 views milestone, which is something we're looking forward to, and we're really excited to say that. And we hope to keep continuing to grow our YouTube channel as well. So please check out any of the content we put on there. In the future, we're going to have tons of content pouring on there very often and very quickly. So keep an eye on that. Well, I think that's pretty much it.
That's it.
Yeah. Again, Jayla, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank y'all. This was really nice. I really enjoyed this.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'm gonna shut off this live stream. Bye.